Yes, good morning to all. Good morning to all. So, in continuation to the yesterday's class, we have discussed what is highway. In the yesterday's class, we have discussed about what is highway. Now, today and also we have started discussing about what are the components of highway. So, what are the components of highway? The highway stands for information super highway, which is the basic infrastructure that is required or essential for all the e-commerce application as well as computer based services, okay, or communication based services. And this highway, the components of this highway, 1 minute. Okay, so the components of information highway are like this: network access equipment, local on ramps, and global information distribution networks. Okay, these are the three components. These are the three components of information highway. In short, it is called as highway. Okay, next. So here, this network access equipment are those which are used at the consumer or business premises equipment. That is, the consumers or business enterprises who wants to access the e-commerce applications, or otherwise those who want to get the services from the internet, they have to use certain devices. Such devices are called as network access equipment devices. So that we will discuss in the next part. And here, the backbone of the global information distribution network is the long distance satellite communication networks. These are the backbones for our global information distribution networks, or all the other e-commerce application. And in order to users connect to these backbone networks, it is difficult for the users directly to connect to this backbone network. There are certain infrastructures through which users can connect to those uh, global information distribution network. Those infrastructures are telecom based infrastructure, cable TV based infrastructure, wireless infrastructure, and commercial online infrastructure. So these are the different infrastructures that allows the users to connect to the global information network. Here, so no, in order to connect, we can use any one of these networks. Each and every network uses some specialized devices to connect to this backbone network. Okay. So network access equipment. This is what we have. The hardware or software that supports to connect to the global information network. So which provides physical devices such as routers, switches, and computers and set-top boxes to connect the network. So here are some of the hardware and software that are required for accessing information from the global network. Set-top boxes which are used in cable TV based infrastructure communication. So whenever the users wants to access the information from the global network through cable TV, then they need these set-top boxes, where these set-top boxes allows us to use the videos and all other elements. Likewise, computers, switches, and hubs, where these switches, hubs, or routers are used to connect to the different computer networks, or different computers together into a network, and that can be connected to the large-scale global network. Likewise, software platforms such as browsers and operating systems are also required. So these are the different elements that comes under this network access equipment. Next, local on ramps or access roads. There are three different types of infrastructures that are available through which we can connect to the global network, that is information highway. So they are telecom based infrastructures are those, or otherwise ramp, which allows us to connect to the large broader network. So telecom based networks are those in which we use either telephone line or mobile phones to telephone lines to connect to the global network, whereas cable TV based infrastructure requires the set-top boxes through which the users can access the digital services that are provided by the various services servers. Likewise, wireless based infrastructure in which we can use mobiles or other kind of wireless devices through which we can connect to the global information networks. And commercial services commercial infrastructure online infrastructure involves computer based online information services that include value added network called as WANs, or like intranet or extranet, through which the users can access the information of an enterprise. So these local on ramps are access roads, just like how we will have local roads to connect to the highways. These infrastructures helps to connect, these infrastructures helps to connect to the information highway. And here these infrastructures are sometimes also called as last mile, because they are the link, that is the link that is provided from the users to the global network, that makes them that's why they are called as last mile. And local on ramps, as previously we discussed, these are the different things which links the home and personal networks with the backbone. That's why these are called as local on ramps, or sometimes they are also called as last mile. Okay. Next part of the next component of the information highway is global information distribution network, which addresses the frameworks that are connected to several nations. So this information the global information distribution network, it is not a local, it is global. That means we can connect to, we will have the network globally. And this addresses the frameworks that are required. Framework is nothing but the infrastructure that are required to connect, that are connected to several nations. అంటే గ్లోబలీ కనెక్ట్ అయిన అన్ని వాటిని మనం ఏ విధంగా కనెక్ట్ చేసుకోవాలో తెలపడానికి ఇది ఉపయోగపడుతుంది. So here it represents the communication infrastructure crisscrossing countries and continents, that is long distance networks and satellites. So global information distribution generally have the long distance networks and satellites which are connecting different countries and continents. That's why it is called as global information distribution network. Most of the infrastructure for the highway already exists in the vast network of fiber optic strands, coaxial cables, radio waves, satellites, and copper wires spanning the globe. So already we will have some, each and every country will have some kind of networks with the help of these kind of different infrastructures. Linking all the components of the highway will require a large capital investment in open system and installing gateways between various networks. So here already each and every nation will have its own network. All these networks have to be connected together. That's why the equipment that has to be used in the highway should be in such a way that we have to connect different networks, and each network has to use some common standards, as well as they have to use some gateways. That means which are the pathways to connect the different networks. And it also requires a switching hardware and software to move large amounts of data effortlessly over the complex network. That means this information distribution network requires some switching hardware and software in order to transfer the data over the different networks. Okay, so here what are the public policies issues shaping the highway? The major issues in the highway is cost. The cost of establishing the highway, where some billions of dollars are will incur. So in order to establish these kind of networks, this much of expenditure has to be spent, and who will bear, or who has to bear this vast amount that is required for establishing this network? That is one major issue. Only private parties cannot invest such amount. Government also has to give some kinds of subsidies. So whether these subsidies such that the network can be established without any difficulty, where these subsidies should be provided whether to the infrastructure developers or for the consumers, that will be the one of the issue. And allocation of scarce resources, it is the another issue that is involved in the development of highway. Scarce resources, that is sometimes the each and every they involve new technologies. They have to involve the highway involves with the new technologies where that require some scarce resources. So these resources are to be used optimally. Otherwise, it will become a burden for the nations or organizations which are in which the highway has to be established. Regulation. So here regulation is the another issue in which who has to maintain or who has to control the highway. Only if the private parties develops the highway, then government will not have any regulation on that. Instead of that, the government also has to give some regulations and rules such that the information highway has to be maintained in such a way that they can be used by all the people. So the government organizations as well as private parties in together by forming the different committees, they have to maintain the regulations. Universal access, as this highway involves with a huge development cost, the accessing of the highway should be universal. That means whether this has to be given equal access to all the users or otherwise it has to be limited to some people. So here, as this involves different kinds of different the access should be given universally so that anybody can access. Next, information privacy issues. Information privacy issues. So the information that is published about this highway has to be maintained securely and confidentially. So who has to maintain this? Because if any information that is leaked over this highway, that is while performing the e-commerce transactions, that information may be sensitive, that will be very valuable information. If it is been leaked, it will be lost to the users who uses this highway. So there must be some kind of information privacy issues that has to be addressed. And social religious barriers, social and religious barriers. So the cyberspace is considered to be representation of a free speech and democracy. It is very hard to monitor the traffic that is been taking place over the information highway. That's why there should be some uh, regulations and laws that has to represent who and how, what kind of information that can be shared, which will not cause any social and religious discomforts. Okay, so these are the some of the issues that are to be addressed while shaping this highway. Why, anybody have doubts? Anybody? Ayappa, Dinesh, Kodandan?
Sir, no doubt, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So these are the different components and what are the different issues that are shaping the highway. Next topic is, now we have seen what are the components of information highway, um, uh, in which the network has to be used as an infrastructure. Now, which the network infrastructure, among which we have different kinds of infrastructures in which the internet or different kinds of technologies that are used as a part of this infrastructure. Now we will see how the internet is used as a network infrastructure. How the internet is being used as a network infrastructure. Before starting about the internet, we briefly discuss about what is a network and what are the some common terminology that is used in a network. A network, so internet as a network infrastructure, computer network concept. So what is a computer network? A network is a mix of computer hardware and software, or otherwise a network is nothing but a collection of different computers that are connected together. Not only computers and other devices such as printers, removable media, scanners and other equipment that are connected together is called as a network. So networks enable the people to share the resources. So the main object of the network is to share the resources, which include printers, hard disks and applications. They reduce the cost of providing these resources to each person in a company. So the main objective of the network, to establish a network which is a collection of different systems, is to reduce the cost by sharing the resources. Sharing the resources, which in turn reduces the cost, because instead of providing each resource to the resources to each person separately, they will be shared among all the users, many users, so that it reduces the cost. And the devices that are connected in a network are sometimes called as hosts, nodes, workstations, peers, servers, and clients. These are the terms that are used to describe different network devices. A host is also known as a computer. Network host is a computer or other device that communicates with the other devices on a network. So the host on a network include clients and servers, which sends and receives data as well as services or application. So host is a device that may be either a computer or any other device that is mainly used to communicate within the network. Hosts typically do not include intermediary network devices like switches, routers, which are instead they categorized as nodes. So hosts are those devices which can perform the data transfer. Data transfer చేయడం కోసం మనకు ఉపయోగపడే devices ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, that means they use it to send and receive the data, services or applications, such are called as hosts. Whereas these switches, routers, which are used as a intermediary network devices, they are called as a nodes. So what is a node? Node is a broader term that includes anything connected to a network, while a host requires an IP address. So the node is a one which allows us to connect different devices. Different devices ని కనెక్ట్ చేసుకోవడానికి మనకు ఉపయోగపడే వాటిని నోడ్స్ అంటున్నాం. Okay, but network nodes are not hosts unless they require IP address to function. So here is a typical network that is given, in which there are different devices that are connected to a small network. This is a device which generally we call as a switch or hub, which is used to connect all the devices, and that in turn will be allowed to used to connect to the major or large networks. So each computer requires some kind of hardware component to connect to the network. Okay, so one or more servers or host computers include microcomputers and mainframes, client PCs, a circuit or network system, which is the path over which they communicate. So this is the typical network scenario. And computer network, in addition, servers and clients are also called special computer software that enables them to communicate. Servers and client. Server stores the data and software that the clients can access. So servers are the systems that are used in a network, which generally holds all the data and other required services, and those services will be delivered to the clients on the request of the client. So organization can have several servers working together over the network, with client computers connect to support the business applications. In this, that is, an organization can maintain many servers, and in turn the client is the input-output hardware device at the user's end of a communication circuit or communication end. The client generally requests the servers to get the required service. So nowadays the network does not need a computer designated specifically as a server, because most modern client computers are designed to support the dual roles of both client and server. So previously in old technology, we have to maintain separately the client and server technology if required. If required, we can maintain the client and server kind of connection establishment, such that we want to control the clients. Whereas sometimes there is no need to have control the clients, then the clients itself can form a network and they can communicate. So nowadays all the small networks in which the systems that are connected can act as both client and server and can share the resources over the network. The circuit, cable or plant or transmission media is the pathway through which the data or information travels. So in order to connect the systems, we have different kinds of mediums. One of that medium is a wired networks. One of that is wired networks, typically uses copper wires or fiber optic cables, and there is wireless transmission also, which allows to perform the transmission. And the devices which are used to connect the systems or hosts in a network are called as hubs, switches, routers, bridge, and gateways. These are the different devices that are used in a network to connect different systems. So here now we'll see what are the different network device and its roles. Here are the different systems that are connected to a network through hub or switch. Hub or switch is an is a device which helps to connect all the systems in a network within an organization or within a small group of network. So here one system in this network can communicate through this hub or switch. And routers are the devices that are used to connect to the other networks, different networks as well as the internet. So hub and switch, what the hub and switch is used for? Each computer client or server has a network adapter. So the devices which you want to connect to the network, they should have a network adapter generally, and the computer or otherwise network interface card. So without this network adapter, it is not possible to connect any device into a network. In case of wireless network, the network adapter sends and receives radio frequency messages. That is, for example, if you take a cell phone, the cell phone sends or receives the message with the help of this radio frequency signals. The network adapter also determines the low level protocols used by the computer to communicate on the network. The network adapters running on one protocol cannot communicate with the network adapters running on the different protocols. So in a network, all the systems should have same kind of protocols to be followed, same kind of protocols. Otherwise, it will not be possible to communicate with the other devices. That's why these network adapters are designed in such a way that they can identify and they allow the communicate. They allow the device to communicate over the network. Router. A router is a device which enables the computers on one network to communicate with the computers on the other networks, but at the same time provide a level of isolation between the networks. So these routers are those which allow us to communicate between different networks, and these routers are the key part of the internet. Which is at its core as a massive set of interconnected networks. A gateway is used to connect connect dissimilar networks and devices. So gateway is like a device which is used to connect different types of networks. Like routers, bridges connect network to the other networks, but bridges does not provide the level of isolation as routers do. There is another kind of device called as routers, which combines the functionality of bridge and routers. సో బ్రిడ్జ్ రూటర్ ఏవైతే పనులు చేస్తాయో ఆ రెండు చేయడానికి ఉపయోగపడే డివైస్నే రౌటర్ అంటాం. సో ఎనీ డౌట్స్ రిగార్డింగ్ దిస్? ఇప్పటి వరకు చెప్పిన వాటి వరకు ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయండి? సురేష్, ఢిల్లీ బాబు, దినేష్,
సార్ ఏం లేదు సార్.
ఏం లేదు. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ. సో now we'll discuss about the client server technology. Client server describes the relationship between two computer programs in which one program or one device will act as a client which makes the service request to the other program, which is called as our system, which is called as a server. Okay, so this is the basic technology it is the basic underlying technology in any network. Okay, generally the clients will have a lower systems with low configurations, whereas servers are the systems which will have the higher configurations with necessary softwares. So the common server OS includes Windows Server, Windows 2003 Server, 2008 Linux versions are the server based operating systems as well as network operating system. So far we have discussed about what is a network and what are the basic terminologies that are come across the network. Now we will see the internet. Internet will be considered as one of the infrastructure, or it is the medium that through which we can establish the network for communication purpose. So the internet is an information distribution system spanning several continents, where this internet is defined as simply can be defined as a interconnected networks. So internet is defined as a interconnected networks, where we have different networks are connected together, and here that different networks together is called as internet. The Federal Networking Council defines the internet as logically linked systems together by a global unique address space based on the internet protocol. So the Federal Networking Council defines the internet as it is a logically linked devices together by a global unique address space based on the internet protocol, and this internet uses TCP IP suite to perform the communication. So here we need to remember what is internet. Internet is a collection of different networks, or otherwise simply it can be defined as interconnection of different networks, where these networks span over the several continents, or otherwise globally. Internet allows us to perform e-commerce applications as well as computer based services apart from the communication. So here electronic commerce applications such as video on demand, home shopping, and emails, EDI, information publishing and retrieval, and video conferencing are the different services that we can get through this internet. The interchange takes place rapidly using fairly inexpensive and commonly available technologies. So through the internet, the data transfer takes rapidly in such a way that the data will be transferred in a fraction of seconds from one place to the another place globally, depending upon the network speeds. So these are the different networks that are making up the internet. ఇంటర్నెట్ అనేది మనకి ఏముంది అంటే ఇంటర్నెట్లో మనకి డిఫరెంట్ నెట్వర్క్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఆ డిఫరెంట్ నెట్వర్క్స్ ఏంటి అనేది ఇక్కడ ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. సో మిల్ నెట్, ఎన్ఎస్ఎఫ్ నెట్, ఆర్పానెట్, సిఎస్ నెట్, ఎబోని, ఏషియా నెట్వర్క్స్, పిఎస్ఐ నెట్, ఆల్టర్నేట్. దీస్ ఆర్ ద డిఫరెంట్ మేజర్ నెట్వర్క్స్ విచ్ ఇన్ టర్న్ విల్ హ్యావ్ డిఫరెంట్ సర్వీస్ ప్రొవైడర్స్. లైక్ వైజ్ ఈమెయిల్ ఓన్లీ నెట్వర్క్స్, ఇలా డిఫరెంట్ నెట్వర్క్స్ అన్నిటినీ కలిపితే మనం ఇంటర్నెట్ అని అంటున్నాం. ఓకే, సో now the internet can be used as a network infrastructure for performing these e-commerce applications లో మనం ఇంటర్నెట్ అనేదాన్ని ఒక నెట్వర్క్ ఇన్ఫ్రాస్ట్రక్చర్ గా మనం ఉపయోగించుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే, సో ఎనీ డౌట్స్ రిగార్డింగ్ దిస్? ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా మీకు? So far whatever we have discussed, that any doubts regarding what we have discussed so far? ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా?
No, sir.
No. So with this we will stop the class today and we will continue in the next class.
Okay, sir.